have it, Jerry. Was the witness? Where is the witness?
If Your Honor, please, Mr. McCullough is still listening to this video, but not to delay things. We're going to go ahead and call another witness, and I'll just completely redirect once we finish this witness.
Any objection? All right. All right, you may proceed with your next witness.
Your Honor, Mr. McCullough, we will complete the redirect in just a few minutes after this next witness, and we'll proceed with another one at this point.
All right.
State would call Wes Connor to the stand. Actually, could I get you to remain standing? Sorry. Will you raise your right hand? Do you swear from testimony before this jury the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, have a seat for me, please, sir. And let me get you to introduce yourself to the jury.
Hi, my name is Wes Connor.
And Mr. Connor, where do you live these days?
Could he just spell that for the court?
I apologize. Yes, sir.
Sure, it's Wes Connor, Wesconner.
Thank you. Sorry. We do things a little differently in my circuit, so I apologize. Mr. Connor, where do you live these days?
I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia.
Where did you grow up?
Ocilla, Georgia.
Do you know the defendant in this case, Mr. Bo Dukes?
Yes, I do.
How do you know that?
Unfortunately, he's my cousin.
Okay. And when you say your cousin, what is the actual relationship between that?
His mother and my mother are sisters.
What's your mother's name?
Suzanne Connor.
Now, I want to take you back to a time, I believe it was right after the defendant had gotten out of the military. Do you recall ever having a conversation with Bo about where a body was buried or had been burned?
I recall having kind of an indirect conversation with Bo, yes.
Where were you when that occurred?
As I recall, it was at a function or at a party late one evening.
Okay. Now, do you know how was it that this conversation started or this comment came about?
You know, I'm not real sure. I just remember it being very into the wee hours of the morning. Not even sure where we were. It's been so long ago. But just kind of in passing, some statements were made.
And what were those statements?
He alluded to the fact that he was involved with a certain disappearance, and that he had kind of helped dispose of a body. Didn't allude to who that was, or what case it was revolving around, but he did allude to the fact that he was involved.
Okay. So let me kind of ask you, break that down a little bit. Growing up in Ocilla, were you familiar with the fact that Miss Grinstead had gone missing in 2005?
I learned that Miss Grinstead went missing, apparently looking back at it, I think it was 7 or 8 days after the fact that she had been missing. I was not living in Ocilla at the time.
That was going to be my next question. Where were you living in 2005 when that occurred?
Athens, Georgia.
Now, knowing about the fact that Miss Grinstead had been missing, did this conversation, these comments that were made by your cousin, Bo Dukes, did he ever use the name Tara Grinstead?
No.
You mentioned earlier that he alluded to the fact that he knew the whereabouts or was involved with a missing person. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you make an assumption as to who he was talking about at that time?
I believe so, yes.
And did he give you any, let me ask you first, did he ever admit to killing the person who he was discussing?
No.
What did he tell you his involvement was?
For what I recall, it was involving, after the fact of what happened, that he, helped dispose of human remains.
Did he give you any more details about how he had done that?
No.
Did he tell you where it was that he had disposed of those human remains?
He mentioned, just from my recollection, that it did involve the Fitzgerald orchard.
Okay. Now, the Fitzgerald orchard, what do you mean when you say that?
It can mean the Fitzgerald Farms is what we used to call the Fitzgerald Orchard is our family farm, or was at the time.
Who originally owned that farm when you were growing up?
My grandfather,
And what was his name?
Newt Hudson.
Do you know who owns that farm currently?
It was my understanding that my uncle owns Randy Hudson owns full stock in it, or just is the sole owner.
Gotcha. Now, to be clear, do you have anything to do with the farming business down here in South Georgia?
Other than helping my mother and father, just on our personal farm at our house, no.
The location of Fitzgerald Farms, is that in just one county or is it in other counties as well?
Ben Hill County solely.
Just a moment. What was the defendant's attitude when he was telling you about having helped dispose of a body at Fitzgerald Farms?
From what I recall, he was, rather boastful, but just knowing Bo growing up, he had that tendency to want to be a compulsive liar and very boastful.
Okay. I guess let me ask you then, did you believe him when he told you?
No.
Did you ever tell anybody he had told you this until after all of this came out in 2017?
No.
Now, the person that we've been discussing, who you identified as your cousin, Bo Dukes, is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, he is.
Did you identify him for the jury, please?
He's sitting right over there.
And what color is he wearing?
He's got a dark suit on with a dark blue tie with some designs on it.
Thank you. Just like the record reflects, please, Judge, he has identified the defendant. I don't have any further questions.
All right, Mr. Fox, you may cross-examine.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning.
My name's John Fox. I represent your cousin. If I ask you anything that is not clear, allow me to rephrase it. It's important you understand what you're being asked.
I got it.
Thank you. What years were you at the University of Georgia?
I started in the summer of 2001 and graduated in the fall of 2006, August.
Good man, go Dogs. Do you recall being home for the 2006 Christmas break?
Well, 2006, Christmas, I had already been graduated, so I'm sure I was home, but I can't recall any of the circumstances I was home for other than being home for, Christmas.
Okay. Do you recall seeing Bo or another soldier by the name of John McCullough during the Christmas time in 2006, maybe visiting your parents' house while they were on exodus from basic training?
I can't vividly recall that. From what I understand, Mr. McCullough was visiting. I can't remember. I do remember him, Bo being there and with somebody. I can't pinpoint that it was. I can't remember if it was Mr. McCullough or not.
Thanks. And that's because we're talking over a decade ago. It's a long
Correct.
time. And as you had said, it's hard to remember things quite that far back. All right. The conversation that you tested, is there only one conversation that y'all ever had about the disposal of the body?
Yes.
All right. And you recall speaking with the GBI about that February 22, 2017?
Yes, I do.
All right, very good. And as you said, this occurred late one evening at a party. I think you said in the wee hours of the morning.
Yes.
I believe you told the GBI that Bo had been drinking alcohol heavily and was intoxicated during that conversation.
Yes.
Heavily intoxicated during that conversation?
Yes.
And as a result of that, you didn't initially believe what had been said.
That is correct.
And that's why you didn't go to law enforcement at that time.
That is correct.
Have you ever attended any other parties with your cousin?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say he drinks heavily?
Yes.
Be fair to say there are times in your observation he's drank so heavily he may not recall what he did the night before?
Yes.
When he told you the conversation you had about helping dispose of the body, did he ever make any kind of comment to you about it taking 1,200 degrees to destroy a body or anything specific like that?
No.
All right. Thank you, Wes.
Can you redirect?
Very briefly. Mr. Connor, do you ever get so drunk you claim to have burned a body?
Myself?
Yes, sir.
No.
No further questions.
Mr. Fox?
No reason.
All right, you can step down.
State call Stephen Duke. Mr. Duke, you remain standing. If you raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear from the testimony you're about to give before the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, put your hand down. Have a seat. And Mr. Duke, if you'll introduce yourself to the jury, please.
My name is Stephen Duke,
You'll spell your first name and last name for the court reporter, please.
Stephenduke.
Mr. Duke, how are you employed?
I'm a nurse,
And how long have you been a nurse?
about 8 years.
And where is it that you work currently?
Tiff Regional Medical Center.
And have you worked at Tiff Regional for all of those 8 years?
Yes.
All right. Now, Mr. Duke, do you know a person by the name of Ryan Duke, Ryan Alexander Duke?
Yes, I do.
And who is that?
That is my brother.
And are you older or younger than your brother?
I am 2 years younger.
All right. How old is your brother, Ryan Alexander Duke?
35.
Now, Mr. Duke, do you also know the defendant in this case? Do you know Bo Dukes?
I did, yes.
All right. And how was it that you knew Bo Dukes?
Him and my brother were friends.
In fact, did he and your brother live together at some point?
Yes.
All right. And where was it that they lived together?
For a short while in a trailer in Fitzgerald, Georgia, and then at another house.
All right. Let's talk about the trailer in Fitzgerald, Georgia first. Do you know where that trailer in Fitzgerald, Georgia was located?
I don't remember the exact address, but I know it was across the street from Dormany Medical Center.
And you said, secondly, about a house. Where was that house located? If you recall?
I don't remember the name of the street, but I know it was across the street from a convenience store in Fitzgerald.
Now, I want to direct your attention back to late October of 2005. Do you know where your brother Ryan was living at that point?
Me and him were living in the trailer.
All right. And what about Bo Dukes?
He stayed there often, but that wasn't his primary residence.
Now, specifically, I assume you recall the weekend that Miss Tara Grinstead went missing. Is that right?
Vaguely, yes, sir.
Back in October of 2005. Vaguely recall that?
Yes.
Now, when after Miss Grinstead went missing, did you have a conversation with this defendant, Bo Dukes, about that?
Some time after that, yes.
Okay. How long after you recall the disappearance of Miss Grinstead did you have a conversation with Bo Dukes?
I don't remember. I know it was cold, so it was still in the winter months.
Okay. So if she disappeared in October, it still would have been, what, November, December? Is that what you're saying?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. Now, where were you when you had this conversation with this defendant, Bo Dukes?
We were at a party.
And had you been drinking?
A little bit, yes.
Had Mr. Dukes been drinking?
Yes.
And when you were at this party, was your brother Ryan Alexander Duke at this party?
No.
And tell me what Mr. Duke said to you.
I can't remember word for word, but he said that he knew who had killed Tara Grinstead, and I said, who? And he said, your brother. And I asked him, kind of shocked, what do you mean? And he said, your brother killed her. I said, are you serious? He said, no, I'm just playing. Don't tell anybody. And
what was Mr. Duke's attitude when he told you that your brother had killed Tara Grinstead?
It seemed nonchalant.
Did you ask him if he did anything?
No, that was pretty much the extent of our conversation.
And your conversation ended after that?
Yes.
And this would have been then in 2005, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Mr. Fox?
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Duke.
Good morning.
My name's John Fox. I have some questions for you. You said this trailer, you can't recall the address.
Right.
Said you were at a party. You can't recall that date.
No,
It was just cold.
it was just cold. I just remember having a fire.
Okay. Where was that party? What was the address?
It was at a friend of ours' house, a mutual friend.
Who was that friend?
Ben and Hank McMahon, it was their house.
Okay. Who else was at that party?
Several people. I don't remember exactly who all was there.
And it's your testimony that after Mr. Dukes told you that your brother, Ryan Dukes, had killed Tara Grinstead, you didn't have any further questions for him about it?
No, sir.
Did you go
I
to-
figured he was joking, kidding, just trying to get under my skin.
You knew Miss Grinstead was missing.
Yes,
You knew folks were looking for her.
yes,
You've been interviewed by law enforcement, have you not?
yes, sir.
Your first interview was February 22nd, 2017, correct?
Yes, sir.
In that interview, you recalled your conversation with Bo from that party, correct?
Yes,
There was no mystery in your brother, and no mystery in your mind that your brother's name had come up in the Grinstead investigation at that time in 2017 when you talked with the GBI, correct?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Did you know that your brother's name had come up as a suspect when you were talking with the GBI when they interviewed you?
Yes, they had already arrested him.
Well, your first interview was February 22nd, 2017.
No, sir. I'd never talked with the GBI before they arrested my brother.
Okay. But you did talk with the GBI.
Yes.
If you need to think about those days for a second, feel free to do so.
They arrested my brother the 21st, 2017. The 22nd is when I talked with them.
All right, so it's your understanding your brother was arrested
Yes.
February 21st?
If I'm not too badly mistaken, yes, sir.
And it is your recollection you talked with the GBI before or after your brother was arrested?
After.
All right. And you had a second meeting with the GBI, 12/28/2018. They took some DNA
Yes.
swabs?
Yes, sir.
Took some fingerprints? You didn't give them any information about where you were on October 22nd, 2015, did you?
No, sir.
All right. And you are aware that your brother's attorneys have filed a notice of alibi, correct?
I don't know what that is.
Well, have you talked with your brother's lawyers about where you were on October 22nd, 2015?
Yes.
And you told them that you were home along with your brother Ryan, Bo, and Ben McMahon there at the trailer?
Yes, sir.
You have further stated that Ben was visiting from school and brought a bottle of alcohol, correct?
I agreed. I did not state that.
You agreed.
I don't remember the weekend that well, details about it, but the details that my brother has spoken about, he remembers that weekend better than I do. It doesn't seem unlikely that would have happened.
But you can't say for sure. 'Cause
Not
you don't
100.
remember that weekend.
Not 100%, no, sir.
And Bo hasn't told you those things, correct?
No.
Ben can't tell you those things because he's no longer alive, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it is not your testimony today then that you know for a fact on October 22nd, 2005, going into October 3rd, 2005, that you, Bo, Ben McMahon and your brother shared a bottle of alcohol, that Ben left, you went to bed, your brother passed out, and that Bo was allegedly the only one awake.
Not 100% certain, no, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Duke, just so I'm clear, when you spoke with GBI on February 22nd of 2017, you didn't tell them, my brother couldn't have done it because I remember where he was, right? You
Right.
didn't tell them that.
Right.
And then you spoke with GBI a second time in December 20th of 2018, a second time, and you didn't tell them, you know where your brother was, he couldn't have done it at that time either, did you?
Correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Anything further?
No, sir, Your Honor.
All right, you step down.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir.
Your Honor, if I may resume redirect with Mr. McCullough.
You may.
Mr. McCullough, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 7 and ask if you'll look at that, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with State's Exhibit number 7?
Yes, sir.
And specifically with State's Exhibit number 7, what is State's Exhibit number 7?
It is the recorded interview call that I had with Agent Jason Shadell from the GBI in January 26th of 2018.
Have you had an opportunity in the break since you left the witness stand to review that disc?
Yes, sir.
And is it a true and accurate recording of the interview that you gave with Jason Shadell?
Yes, sir.
John Robert, tender State's Exhibit number 7. No.
What was the date of the interview?
January 26th of 2018.
All right, just a minute.
I would ask that it be published for jury.
Not much, just getting up, just got kids off to school and stuff. Waiting for a few minutes and then I have to leave for work at about 8:20 or so. And I ride a motorcycle also, so I can like take you on a call with me.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I trust me.
Hello, Jason.
Hey, John,
Hey, sir.
what's going on?
Not much, just getting up, just got the kids off to school and stuff, and waiting for a few minutes, and then I have to leave for work at about 8:20 or so.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
Well,
I ride a motorcycle also, so I can't like take you on a call with me.
yeah, no, that's fine. I trust me. I wouldn't want you to do that. I'd rather you be much more safe than that.
Yeah. Well, also it's the car that I had, or the truck that I had, lost it in the flood. I know you heard about all the flooding and stuff. My neighborhood
Got a
actually.
buddy that lives south of Houston in League City.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, it was, I'm in like Spring area, so just north of Houston and just south of the Woodlands. And, yeah, we got it pretty bad, man. They were launching boats to go help people 2 streets over from my house.
Wow. Yeah, my buddy had to leave his house because it got to the windows. It had rained so much the water started seeping through on the top end of the windows, and they had to go stay at his parents' house. So we sent some stuff out there for him, and like I said, we offered him to come over here and just stay over here for a couple weeks, and they didn't want to do that, so because of work and all that other kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I was watching yesterday on the news last night where, I don't remember if it was Winnie or somewhere, that has the United States record for most rain fallen from a land, something like, not a tsunami, but, like a land storm or whatever, and they got 60 inches.
I remember he was telling me they got like 48 inches in like 3 days.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
like that. It's just
it was crazy.
some astronomical figure I couldn't even imagine. So, but of course they put us on standby for all the storms, so we never knew whether or not we were going out there to help out or not, or because then we ended up having our own here.
Right.
So because
Right, yeah.
mutual aid stuff, and if we didn't, I would venture to say if we didn't have the storms here too, then we probably would have been going out there to help. So it's been a rough. We had a triple homicide yesterday.
Oh man, that's no bueno.
Yeah, So we've been out working on that for the last few days, and well, yesterday and today. And
Well, I think what was crazy too is I was watching on the news either yesterday or the day before yesterday where there was a kidnapping that was it was a father and son, but the perps just took the father and left the 12-year-old son at home, and they took him to a house down in, I want to say it was Lake City, and the FBI agents were called in, and one of the FBI agents shot the father. Yeah, shot him.
that's what I heard. Yeah, there was a sheriff's deputy that was ambushed and killed too, I think in like Colorado or something yesterday too.
Yeah, there's a bunch of crazy stuff going on in the world today.
Oh, you ain't got to tell me about it. I know. Of course, you were in the military, so I'm certain you saw some pretty crazy stuff too. So.
Not really.
Did you ever get deployed?
No, sir. Pretty much, I went to from Fort Benning, Georgia, and then I got discharged because I was having, some issues and stuff like that, and and then I had my bad knee and stuff also, and then they kind of put it as they were going to do it as a medical, but it was to failure to adapt is what they bottom lined me at.
Wow. I mean, that's still honorable, though. I mean, it's not a dishonorable discharge, so.
No.
Or is that considered a discharge? Do they consider it honorable? That was like 2 or 3 different kinds.
It's considered, I don't remember how it's worded, but like a general discharge, but they told me I could file to get it changed to honorable discharge if I absolutely wanted to.
Right. I mean, as long as it's not a dishonorable, I would imagine it's fine.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to have that.
I wouldn't either. But, well, since you're limited on time, I guess we'll just kind of go right back into it. If I remember correctly, you said that you and Bo were in basic training together in, was it Fort Sill, Oklahoma?
Yes, sir.
So I guess let's just go from, that's when you met him, and let's just kind of go from there. And I'll be taking notes as you're talking, and just verifying that information, and we'll just kind of go from there.
So just start like from when I met him?
Yep. Start from
Okay. Yeah, so I met him in basic, and then, we became friends, but, everybody in there kind of has no choice but to become friends. And then whenever I was in basic training, we had Christmas Exodus because I went in November. So like in Christmas, or around Christmas time, you're allowed a 2-week break. And it was from like, I think it was I can't remember the day, it's 21st or 22nd of December. It was literally right before Christmas. And then we didn't have to be back until the 3rd of January. I remember that. And
this is 2006 into 2007.
Yes, sir. And anyways, and then asked, hey man, what are you doing for Christmas Exodus? And I was like, well, I could go home, but and he was like, hey, well, why don't you come to Georgia? And you come out there with my, with me and my family and stuff, and we'll hang out and stuff like that. It's something different. Okay, cool. So, we went. He flew on a plane, and then I rode a bus, to Georgia, in which, whenever I got there, his mom's the one that picked me up. Sorry.
That's fine.
But anyways, and she was the one that picked me up, and then, we went out and then, hung out and stuff like that, and did
You remember
numerous...
the bus station that where you drove the bus to? You remember what town it was?
I think it was in Rochelle.
Rochelle?
But it could have been Fitzgerald. I'm not 100% sure, because I came into one town, and I left out of a different town whenever I came back because I rode a bus back too.
Okay.
But I know whenever I got there, she was the one that picked me up, and whenever I left, she was the one that took me to the bus station because Bo had already went to the airport because he actually had to leave. I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 hours before me, before I could even get on the bus because I bought a round trip bus ticket.
Okay.
But anyways, got there, and then like I said, did, normal stuff, went and ate different places and, hung out at different places and stuff. And then while I was there, his mom had told me I could drive a truck that they had there, which was I don't know the exact year, but it was an early 2000 Ford F-150 long bed and single cab. And then like I told you before, that's the one that was involved with all the, stuff.
Right, that was that white Ford F-150.
Yes, the single cab long bed, and that one, if my mind serves me correct, it was a manual. But anyways, and so I drove that truck, around town, stuff like that. Whenever we went out, we went out, hung out with some of his friends, a couple of different times. At one particular time, we went to his friend's house, and it was really crazy too because we were heading to his friend's house, and he was like, "Hey, if you see like any crazy lights, or spotlights or anything like that, it's the police department because they always fly over my buddy's house because he's known as like a drug dealer or something like that." It was really crazy. The bus station because Bo had already went to the airport because he actually had to leave. I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 hours before me, before I could even get on the bus because I bought a round trip bus ticket.
Okay.
But anyways, got there, and then like I said, did, normal stuff, went and ate different places and, hung out at different places and stuff. And then while I was there, his mom had told me I could drive a truck that they had there, which was I don't know the exact year, but it was an early 2000 Ford F-150 long bed and single cab. And then like I told you before, that's the one that was involved with all the, stuff.
Right, that was that white Ford F-150.
Yes, the single cab long bed, and that one, if my mind serves me correct, it was a manual. But anyways, and so I drove that truck, around town, stuff like that. Whenever we went out, hung out with some of his friends, a couple of different times. At one particular time, we went to his friend's house, and it was really crazy too because we were heading to his friend's house, and he was like, "Hey, if you see like any crazy lights, or spotlights or anything like that, it's the police department because they always fly over my buddy's house because he's known as like a drug dealer or something like that." It was really crazy. And I was like, "All right, man, whatever." So anyways, we go to that said friend's I was like, that's kind of shitty. Because I noticed, that it said, hey, missing person, all this other stuff, and, he was like, well, I know what happened to her. And I was like, yeah, what are you talking about? And he's like, nah, man, no bullshit. He's kind of slurring his words and shit. I can tell he's really intoxicated, drugged up, something. And he's like, my buddy, it was real late at night, came over to my house and then was like, hey man, can I borrow your truck? I fucked up. I need to borrow your truck or whatever. And I was like, what? Because, whenever somebody just comes out and says, hey, this, and it's like, what the shit? You kind of freak out a little bit.
Right. Did he say that the buddy that he was referring to, was it the same guy that y'all had hung out with earlier in that night or in the week?
No.
Okay, different.
Yes. Was supposedly, Rick's really good buddy and all this other shit. And, anyways, and said he'd asked for the truck, and then, that dude was upset, and said, hey man, I accidentally killed her. And then, he was like, sir?
That's what the buddy told the Bo. I accidentally killed her.
Yes. Said, I accidentally killed her. We got in an argument, whatever. And then I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, he killed that girl on the bulletin board and, came to borrow my truck. And, he was upset and all this other stuff. So I told him I'd help him. So, and then that's whenever he was like, I went with him, got this person, which he said at first he didn't know what it was or who it was or nothing until it came down to the fact to where they actually had to move her and put her in the bed of the truck and then drive her to some portion in the middle of his uncle or grandpa's pecan orchard, because Hudson pecan orchard and stuff. And then that's whenever he was like, it takes over 1,200 degrees to burn human bones. And he said that a couple of times, prior to whenever he's sitting there, telling me this story. And I never paid no mind. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about,
Right.
And then I was like, what the hell, man? And he was like, yeah, so, took her out to the middle of the pecan orchard. I'm assuming it was in Rochelle, because I know you said that there was a big portion of it that was in Rochelle, but they had like another smaller portion like in Fitzgerald or another little town that was around there, because I know it was 3 little towns that I know we visited while I was there.
Yeah, probably like Abbeville, Rochelle, Fitzgerald, Queensland.
What was the first one you said?
Abbeville?
You know what? That's probably it. That sounds familiar.
Those are all in the same general area. You have Abbeville, Rochelle, Pitts, Fitzgerald, Osceola. That's pretty much.
Osceola. Hey, you know what? Osceola is the town that I took my bus into. And I want to say I left out of Fitzgerald, I think. But I know for sure whenever I went there, it was in Osceola.
Well, let me ask you this: when his mother picked you up, you didn't have to drive very far to get to her house, did you?
No, and we didn't go to her. Well, we went to I want to say their last name is the Roberts, and that was his aunt and uncle's house, because they, had a lot of money and stuff like that. They were like teachers or principal of a school or something like that. Maybe something with education. I can't remember.
Well, he's got an uncle, last name of O'Connor, that was a principal. But
okay, maybe that was it. Like I said, it's been a while. But yeah, I lived in a really big house, man, and like all kind of stuff. And I remember I went to his mom's house, and it was kind of like I remember I had to
indicate, or did he ever talk about where they picked the body up at? Where he saw the body for the first time? Did he say he saw it in the orchard the first time, or did he say they moved it?
No. It was, yeah, they moved it.
From the orchard to another place, or from this place out in the woods to another place?
Yeah, well, no. Like, whenever his buddy approached him and said, can he borrow the truck, it was at his house.
Right.
Like, she was at his house. So he had to take the truck from Bo over to his house, and they helped him, or he helped him, load it up in a truck, and then that's whenever they took it.
To the orchard.
Yes.
And when he told you this, he said that his buddy was the one that killed her, and he just assisted with moving the body.
Yes.
I have pictures of Bo's truck I'm trying to find it right now on my thing here, and I'm going to send you a photograph and see if you can say one way or the other, yes or no, if that's the truck that you remember. Well, I can. I was looking at my scans. I can find it in the case file. It just takes, the file is so big, it takes forever for it to load open. So it might take a minute. All right, while that's loading up, I will finish up with this part. All right, so your best recollection, you met Bo in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, basic training around November 2006, became friends through the military. For Christmas Exodus around December the 21st, you took a bus to Ocilla, Georgia, and you stayed there till early January because you had to be back on January the 3rd in 07. While you're in town, when you get there, Bo's mother picks you up from the bus station and takes you back to their house. Was Bo already there when you...
Yes, he was already there already.
Okay. While you're there in town, you and Bo are like riding around together. You go to a buddy's house, get to drinking, he's doing some drugs, so on and so forth. You said he's pretty much drunk or wasted almost the whole trip.
Or cocaine or weed, I don't know the extent. I do know that I can tell you too, whenever we got back and they drug tested, us or whatever, because he got back before I did. He reported back before I did. And I know whenever he tested, his cocaine level in his body was like 3 times over what should like kill somebody.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy, and he got Article 15 and something else. But yeah, he got jacked up.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, I know it was some really stupid high amount or number of what they said. I know that.
And so y'all ended up going to his buddy's house. That's the buddy where he got high and drunk and all that. But he was saying that, yeah, the helicopters would fly over because he was known to do drugs, so on and so forth. You didn't see any helicopters flying over or anything, I'm certain. But you're not sure who the friend was. But while you're driving around town, you happen, at some point you saw Tara's missing poster hung up somewhere.
Yeah, and it was a big yellow sign, and I remember at the bottom, because I was like, man, why is she, who is that? Because it was like, I want to say either $100,000 or $150,000, reward that was on the bottom, and I was like, man, that's crazy. I was like, who's that person? And I'd ask questions about it, and then, like I said, just later, whenever he was all, I guess, loose-tongued,
right,
that, it's whenever he said, he broke down and, started talking to me.
Right, he said, you're my battle buddy, right? Which is military slang for somebody who has your back, who basically is looking out for you, that wouldn't kind of like screw you over.
Right. And, what I've said before is, this shit, because, it's literal shit that is in my head, that I've known about for like all these years, and that, and that, like I told you before, that's why I've been frustrated and, all this other stuff, because, it's not, something I just look at and it's like, oh yeah, whatever, I know this app, fuck it, has nothing to do with me, screw it, who cares, like, it jacked with me so much because of the fact that, he was, intentionally, I was trained to count on my guy and to always, take care of my guys, regardless or whatever, especially because I was an 88 Mike, I was transportation. I was going to be hauling everybody around and stuff like that. So, it's kind of a big deal. So whenever I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I got to tell somebody I can't do this. And then, oh shit, he's going to get in trouble and, get thrown out of the military and all this other stuff. What the hell do I do? And then that's, it really jacked me up. And, I'm not trying to find an out of why I got out of the military and stuff like that because, I really wanted to stay there because of the fact it was a huge deal for me to be in the Army and make something of myself because, my dad wasn't, none of my family was. And I wanted to be something else, but, and I'm not saying all alone, just the shit he told me and the stuff that it caused for me, is the complete and utter reason why I got out of the Army. It's not, but it's probably about 85% of it. Because if I can't be relied on to, watch out for my, my intentional guy that could possibly save me, then what the hell am I doing?
Right, I understand. Trust me, I completely understand.
Well, it sucks for me because in pretty much in term, it fucked me out of being able to have a military life because, I struggle now with stuff, not financially, but, just everyday stuff because of the fact that, I didn't go to the military, I didn't, do all I set out to do and shit, and, it just sucks.
Right, I understand. You feel like it's a missing part of your life.
Yeah, it's, all my friends, I'm going to stop my motorcycle real quick. That way I can get warmed up. Okay.
I need to give you 3 photographs.
Oh, you just sent me some right now?
Yep. 2 are the exterior of the truck, and 1 is the interior of the truck, as it was when the photograph was taken, obviously.
Okay, I'll be able to tell you. Let's see. Okay. Oh shit. Yeah, that that kind of looks like it. Let's see. Yeah, that kind of looks like it. Because, like I said, it was single cab. It was a single cab Ford F-150. It was definitely white also. So I do remember that.
And you said that that was definitely the truck that they used.
Yes, was his truck. Because like I said, the truck, I was given the truck to drive. Whenever, like as soon as I got there, she said, you know, I know Bo's going to want to, you know, maybe hang out with a girl or something, you know, because I know you boys are in boot camp and shit and everything, so he's going to drive that. And then here you can have the keys for this and you can drive it and use it for whatever you got to do. Just make sure you keep gas in it and insurance is here, whatever. Like, very nice lady.
Right.
Like, his whole family was badass.
And you think that you met some of his family that were in education? Did you go to their house?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, I went to their house and stuff like that, and, you know, met his brother, who was going to, University of Georgia. It's, Georgia Bulldogs.
Jake is his brother.
Yes, yeah, Jake. And he was, you know, stocky dude, and he had Justin Bieber hair before Justin Bieber even existed. And then because, yeah, we had
Anybody else's names, though, that you met or anybody like that?
No, sir. No, I don't remember any of his friends or nothing like that, no.
Let me ask you this: I'm assuming since all this is kind of broke, you've seen a picture of Ryan, the guy that's charged with murder on Tara's case.
Yes, sir.
Is that any? Do you remember I mean, I know he looks a little different on there than he used to, but
To be honest, like, I really don't remember ever seeing him, because I can tell you the friend that we went to at his house, that he said helicopters flew over, he was a big stocky dude. Like, he was a big fat ass guy. Like, he was a big dude. He was, I mean, I'm a big ass dude, but he was bigger than me, but just, you know, big fat guy.
right. I understand. Let me see if I.
And then, like I said, but as far as like, oh yeah, you know, I've seen that dude or whatever, no, I don't remember seeing him at all.
I've got some photos here. Let me see if I can find them.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. And I know I'm keeping you. I'm sorry to keep you late.
No, it's okay. That's what I said. If I can at least let my bike warm up, I'll be alright. Because the place where I work at, it's, the guy's, the owner's pretty, you know, he's pretty lenient. So if I'm a few minutes late, it's okay.
I'm going to send you a couple more pictures. And Bo's in these pictures, and he's hanging out with some of his friends. So just tell me if you see the people you were hanging out with. And it might be difficult, but
Yeah. So I remember too, we were going to go to it was the Georgia Bulldogs versus Virginia Tech. We were going to go to the game, and but like, you know, Bo was kind of acting weird and shit. So I ended up not going to the game.
did he go?
Yeah.
You want to know something that's funny? I was at that game.
Really?
Yep.
That's cool.
I mean, it's just, you know, it's that small world kind of thing.
Yeah, but yeah, his uncle or aunt and uncle were the ones that had gotten some tickets because they wanted us to be able to do something while we were there. And we met one of the family friends was the equipment manager or something.
Okay.
For the actual team, because I mean, I think I still have it, but I got a Georgia reversible beanie,
sent you 2 photographs. Like I said, you'll probably recognize Bo in a couple of them. Well, he's in both of them, actually. And the one I think that you're talking about is actually, there's a picture of them standing with 2 girls in the front. And Bo's got his hands up in the AC/DC rocker hand. There's a guy in front of him in a green shirt. That's who I'm thinking you're probably talking about.
See, okay, looking at the second picture.
And of course,
none of those guys in the second picture really look familiar to me or nothing.
Which one is the second picture for you?
It was the one where it was just a couple of guys sitting in the back of the truck.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's the other one that's the one that you're gonna hopefully.
Yeah, and then the dude on the very far right in the polo, that's his brother.
Yep.
That's Jake, because I remember his stupid hair. Like I said, it was longer though. It was like Justin Bieber hair.
Right. Well, this was taken before the military stuff. So.
Yeah.
Does the guy in the green shirt in front of Bo look like the guy that y'all were hanging out with?
Yeah, that looks like the dude, because like I said, he was a big old boy.
Well, I know who that is.
Okay.
So it just gives me like reference to who it is.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's always nice to say, well, I hung out with his buddy. Well, do you know who it is? No. Then I show you a picture and go, oh yeah, that was him. So now we've identified who you were hanging out with.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And just to recap, because we stopped at that part where y'all were riding around, you saw the poster, you're asking him about the poster. When you first asked him about that, did he say anything, or did it take a little longer afterwards when you got drunk and high to finally start talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't, like, the only thing he said, like, prior to whenever he completely told me, like, the whole story and everything,
Right.
is whenever I told you, he had mentioned, it takes more than 1,200 degrees to burn human bones. And it would just be, like, out of the blue.
Right. And then he said that did he say that they burned her body?
Say that again?
Did he say that they burned the body? He told you that they burned her, right?
Yes, he said they burned the body and then threw up the field, and nobody would ever find anything, and all this, like talking shit, kind of.
Okay. Is there anything else that you can think about? Like I said, other than verifying his truck and verifying the guy in the photograph, if I remember correctly, this is pretty well exactly what I identified in our first interview. So all this is documented from my first interview with you. There might be a couple more details like the Osceola, taking the bus into Osceola, and maybe some of the dates around the Exodus. But I'm pretty certain it's pretty well right on to what I remember you telling me about.
Yeah.
So, well, good. That makes me feel even better that we've got everything, that I had everything the first time around.
Yeah, well, not only that, like I told you before, it's not one of the things where it's like, I kind of extra fabricated shit or extra needing stuff up or nothing. It's the same exact thing, and it's never going to change. I'll remember, the same story probably for the rest of my life, man.
Right.
And it sucks.
Well, I remember when you called it in, you were like, I don't know if this is true or not. I need to get this off my chest. And you've been, and then, because you told me
Yeah,
that you
because
saw something on the internet and you looked it up and you were like, wow, I thought that case would have been solved way back then, and it wasn't, and that's what prompted you to call the first time.
Yeah, because I originally called, way before, just to, hey, what's going on with this, and stuff like that, and that was probably in 2008-ish, or late 2008, early 2009, because I got out
So
in
you
February.
contacted Bo in 2008-9.
What's that?
Who did you contact in 2008-9?
Police department.
Do you remember who? What police department?
I want to say it was the one that was in Osceola. It was either Osceola or in Fitzgerald, but it was a local police department, and I was just asking questions. And then it kind of went to nowhere, and then I was just like, okay, well, I'm guessing since nobody wants to talk to me, it's just...
So you called to ask and to get somebody to call you, but nobody ever called you back.
Yeah, nobody ever called me, nobody ever did anything. Okay, well, I guess, whatever, I can't do anything about it.
Right.
And then that's whenever I started, calling again, and then, it was the weirdest shit ever. Like, I had a crazy-ass dream, and I mean, that's what I told you whenever I called you. I was like, man, I had this crazy-ass dream, and I gotta call, man, I gotta, do all this stuff, because if I don't, it's just gonna eat away at my damn brain, which, I mean, it's still kind of dead anyways. Had to turn my pig's kennel around. He's a little shit ass, and he's smart enough to open his kennel.
Yeah, they're pretty smart animals, believe it or not.
Yeah, he's not even 4 months old, and he's already like 45 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be a miniature potbelly pig, right?
I didn't think they were supposed to get bigger than like a poodle type dog.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. And then, my buddy had told me, he was like, yeah, don't ever believe it. There's no such thing as like a miniature potbelly pig or miniature any kind of pig. They're just pigs. I mean, yeah, they might be bred a little bit smaller, but they say that, then you turn around and then you have a 100-pound pig on your hands, and you're like, well, why the hell is this pig 100 pounds? Ah, it's a fucking pig.
Yeah. All right. Well, John, I'm gonna let you get back to work, or let you get to work. I appreciate you calling me back, and I'm glad we, verified this again and re-verified it. I feel a lot better that, I did make sure and get all the information the first time around, so. But other than us find the photograph.
I do have a question, though.
Sure.
So am I gonna, testify or be a witness, or not a witness, but, testify and all this other stuff, too?
If this goes to trial, I'm not the DA, and I don't make those decisions as to call and testify, but I would venture to say that you are a key witness in this case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just asking in terms of, holy shit, there might be something around this time, and then you're going to have to take off and then, be in Georgia for a week or 2 weeks or, something like that.
Well, usually what'll happen in a case like that, if it goes to trial,
Yes,
like
sir.
I said, it may not go to trial, it may go to trial. I mean, those decisions aren't made at my level. I'm the truth finder. I, write down what the truth is, and I present it to the DAs, and they present their case.
Yes, sir.
But in my experience, most of the time, if they get somebody from out of town that's going to come and testify,
Yes, sir.
what they do is they kind of have an idea about what day during the week or what day during the trial that they'd like to get you to come in to speak in court. And so usually they would know by a day that they're going to have you there. So it wouldn't be weeks at a time. You would fly in, however you got here, you'd get here, testify, more than likely the same day or the day after you got here, and then you'd be done, excused.
Right.
So you you chose to hang around would be up to you.
Right, okay. Pretty good, yeah. All the stuff that I've talked to you about and all that other stuff, do I get that?
What do you mean?
Like every time, my thing is, nobody, like I said, kind of felt like everybody just kind of fell off and it was just kind of like, whatever, which, you said wasn't the case. But every time we talked, in case I need to be a witness and stuff like that, can I have all the stuff that me and you talked about?
Review your testimony before you have to testify.
Yes.
Yes, you'd be allowed to do that. The DA's office would probably provide you with a copy of my investigative summary. And they wouldn't necessarily do that. They'd probably just call you in or call you up on the phone and talk to you again. Hey, I'm reading this investigative summary. And if they have additional questions about that they need to ask, they'll ask you.
Okay, I get you.
So
well, because I know this case is, like I said, it's, I don't want to say sensitive, but at the same time, I want to make sure I'm doing my part, and I don't want to end up, fucking myself or causing any problem, for the case, because I want it to be fixed, man. I mean, that's my goal, and I don't even know this person, but I feel that, it's part of, my life. Right. And if I don't, see it all the way through, it sucks. Because it'll be like something's totally missing or totally wrong because, I feel like I failed somebody that I never even knew.
Right. Well, you did the right thing. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that you did the right thing. And it was important that you did it. Very important. I can't stress that enough, how important it was for you to call us, and what it started.
Yes, sir.
It was that first step that started down that path for us, at least for me. I wasn't in 2006, 2007, 2008. Like I said, you'll probably, I'm certain at some point, if we are moving forward, you are going to probably hear from us again.
Yes, sir.
If you change any of your numbers or anything, you have my cell phone number, but if you do change it,
yes, sir.
if you'll let me know, and just keep me updated if you move or change your number so I know how to find you.
Okay.
And that's it. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, John, well, be safe going to work, man, and I appreciate it again.
Yes, sir, no problem. All right, thank you, bye.
The time now is 9:48 a.m.
Now, Mr. McCullough, prior to the break at this morning's session, had you listened to that recording before?
No, sir.
That was the first time you had heard that recording was during the break?
Yes, sir.
And the recording that we've just heard, is that a true and accurate recording of what you told Agent Shadell?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, defense counsel had asked you earlier about some DUIs. That was not you.
No. No, I've never had any alcohol or drug charges. I've never had anything like that. No, sir.
In fact, they asked you during the break, and it was another John Ray McCullough, right? Or another
It
John
wasn't. It was
McCullough.
John something McCullough, but no, it was definitely not me.
Now, I want to show you two photographs, those being State's Exhibits 3 and 6, have been previously introduced into evidence. Do you recognize the person in those photographs?
Yes.
And how is that?
From the billboard.
And is the person in State's Exhibits 3 and 6 the same person that you saw in the billboard?
hard to look at them. Sorry.
Just take a moment. Mr. McCullough, is that the same person that you discussed with Bo Dukes back in Christmas Exodus of 2006?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Have anything further?
Do you need a minute, Mr. McCullough?
I'm good. I've been waiting long enough.
Well, let's talk about waiting for a second. You said before Bo Dukes had told you these things, you'd known him for 3 to 4 weeks?
Roughly, yes, sir.
Okay. So you had had 3 to 4 weeks of basic training in the Army at that point?
Yes, sir.
And yet, in that statement, you say, because you had been trained with you, and Mr. Dukes had said these things, you could no longer count on or trust your fellow soldier.
To an extent, yes, sir, because that's what was instilled in us, to be able to rely on the person next to you or whoever's your battle.
What had been instilled in you in the 3 to 4 weeks before Exodus?
Starting from day one.
Sure. But you had additional training after that.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then I think you said ultimately you went off to 88 Mike or transportation.
Yes, sir,
Driver.
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
All right. When did you receive your general discharge?
It would be, finalization of the paperwork was, I believe, February 9th of 2008.
Okay.
Or 2009, I'm sorry.
2009. You're in the Army about 2.5 years or so.
Not even, but after Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and was going to Fort Benning, Georgia, was my first duty station, and actually made it here to Georgia for roughly 3 days, in which I don't know, I broke and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't see myself doing it because it felt like, I don't know, that I couldn't be relied on, because that's after I had started calling and, trying to get the information out and stuff like that, in which I went home and subsequently went AWOL. And then just out driving around one day and got pulled over, and they ran my name and showed up that I was AWOL, and got transported back to Fort Sill in Oklahoma and awaited my discharge for chapter, I believe it was either chapter 10 or chapter 11 for failure to adapt.
And it is your testimony that you went AWOL because you didn't feel you could be relied upon.
Yes, sir.
Because of the things Mr. Duke told you?
It's just because it was the sense of, if I can't handle, I would say, sensitive information or information of that nature, to be able to, I guess, watch out for my buddy, then what am I doing?
Well, but I thought your concern was you couldn't trust other people because of the secrets they relate to you, not that you couldn't be relied upon.
Well, it's a tricky situation when it comes to that, because of the fact I guess there wasn't the balance that I wanted, in the sense of being able to count on myself as well as count as other people, because of the fact that, in the sense, I was about to fail him, because I couldn't hold on to it. I couldn't turn a cheek. I couldn't look the other way, and I couldn't not say anything.
Well, now, I thought you told us earlier that the reason you didn't come forward and tell authorities until the call to Fitzgerald, I believe you testified earlier, it was 2006, 2007, was because you were concerned what would happen. That is, you didn't know what would happen with Mr. Dukes. Not that you felt that you had some obligation to him to conceal what had been told to you.
Is that a question?
It is, sir. Which is it?
Okay. Well, like I said, it's, I guess it's kind of a mixture of both. And I mean, I would understand that, probably anybody would understand that it's complicated, but in the same sense, it's a mixture of both of those things.
And in 2009, when you come out, you're still having this feeling, you had testified you had placed calls in 2006, correct?
February of 2000, end of February of 2007, after roughly maybe a week that I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Yes, sir.
You were paying attention when the recording was playing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You recall telling Agent Shadell that you had called Fitzgerald in 2008, 2009?
It was either Fitzgerald or one of the other police departments, and roughly since that time until now, I've called several police departments.
Okay. But you didn't tell that to Agent Shadell, did you?
I told him about the case, or the first part of calling Fitzgerald Police Department. Yes, sir.
Okay. But in that recording we just listened to, said you had called 2008, 2009 down to Fitzgerald, didn't get a response.
On that recording, but if you also knew the other things, I've had a conversation previous to that with him as well, which was June 14th.
Okay. So your testimony is, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, they're not true.
That's right.
But that during the initial meeting you had in 2016, you laid out for Agent Shadell, not only had you called Fitzgerald in 2007, but you had made multiple repeated calls to local law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
You would agree that does not appear in this detailed recording that we just had?
Yes, sir, because to my knowledge, this was the only recording that he actually recorded.
Well, now, what I'm asking you is that you saying, hey, not only did I call Fitzgerald that one time, but I then started calling all of these other law enforcement agencies because I couldn't get a response. That wasn't in the recording we just heard, was it?
No, sir.
All right. In fact, what you had said is you had started calling again because of a dream that you had had. That's
Yes,
why
sir.
you called the GBI in 2016.
Yes, sir. Again, yes.
Okay.
And decided to look past the, I guess, local law enforcement because nothing was happening.
All right.
And I called, if I can add, previous a couple of times to the GBI, in which they said the agent that was the original agent that was on the case was no longer on the case. And that happened one more time after that. And then finally, I got Jason Shadell, I guess, to call me back and to literally open everything up.
And just so we're clear on this, what you're saying is that on 2 occasions before you spoke with Agent Shadell,
Yes.
you had called the GBI
Yes, sir.
about what you would agree is a huge missing persons case.
Yes, sir.
And those agents just never bothered to call you back or follow up with you.
No, sir. And that's why it's very frustrating to me.
Okay. You blame Bo Dukes for coming out of the Army?
Sir?
Do you blame Bo Dukes for you coming out of the Army?
Specifically him as a person? No. In the sense of what he told me and everything, and I guess what was laid on me, to an extent, yes, sir. If you listen to the recording, about 85% of it is probably this that I'm dealing with.
Okay.
And with the fact that I couldn't get nobody to listen.
Did you ever go to superior officer? Did you ever go to the military police? Anybody up your chain of command when you had been moved from Fort Sill?
No, sir.
Did you ever go to any counselors or anybody and tell them?
No, sir.
Did you ever seek counseling for all the troubles you had?
At one point in time, I did to see if it would help, but not as far as getting prescribed medication or anything like that, just to talk with somebody and not go in full detail of everything, just, hey, I'm having some problems sleeping and, stuff like that, just general things, but never to an extent of, hey, I know this, and this, and this, can you help me do something with it? It was never to that extent.
I've been told a terrible secret that haunts me. It's
Yes.
affecting every aspect of my life, but you never ask anybody specifically for help about that.
Right.
Well, if all of this is the 85% of why you went out of the military, what's the other 15%? The bad knees?
Yes, sir. I have arthritis in my knees and things like that, and just like being able to function, I guess, at 110%.
One final question. You had told the jury earlier that when you went to this party, the night that Bo tells you this statement, you saw a helicopter in the woods. You saw a light over the trees, which you testified to earlier?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during the interview, did you hear where Jason Shadell said something about a helicopter? You didn't see a helicopter. You didn't correct him, did you?
I was literally on my way to work, or getting ready to leave on my work, but like I said, I did actually say something to him, and we'll probably never know in the previous interview that I had with him in June.
About
The whole thing, because in June, whenever I initially talked to him, I told him everything from start to finish, just like in the recording, but, you know, it wasn't exactly, you know, hey, this, you know, in the sense of, I guess, the formality of it, I'm assuming, of, you know, of what went into great detail and what didn't and stuff like that. So, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you step down.
Yes, sir.
All right, members of the jury, it's almost noon, and so I'm going to recess for lunch till 1:30. Be back here in the jury room by 1:30 with these instructions, and that is you're not to discuss the case with anyone. Don't allow anyone to discuss it in your presence or in your hearing, and don't discuss it among yourselves until I give you instructions to do so. Now, with those instructions, you're free to go to lunch. Be back here at 1:30, and we'll resume the trial at that time.